Good day, my friends. Billy Mandarino here, the Now-ist, and welcome to the Now-ist Experience podcast. So excited today to be here with a light in the world, Dr. Liz Letchford, body whisperer, founder of the Body Church, and just an inspiring light in this planet. I can't wait to have this conversation. So prepare yourself. This is going to be a switched on, tuned in connection of the present moment. Liz, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh my God, I'm so inspired by this moment because you and I have a auspicious beginning.
That's right.
I met you at a property randomly. I mean, there's no random. I believe in synchronicities and there's no accidents in this divinely organizing universe. So when you came into my awareness, I was just like, who is this like free spirit wearing her heart on her sleeve, completely authentic and just yourself? And I was so refreshed by that because I meet a lot of people, you meet a lot of people. It's a kind of a global connection nowadays. But I swear to God, Liz, I've never met anyone like you. Like, you are so authentic. And I was telling you earlier before we set up here that Prince is my favorite artist of all time. Prince, to me, is the epitome of authenticity. And you have that spark that Prince has, like the authenticity. Where does that come from?
Oh, dying over and over and over again and killing my creations over and over and over again. And what I mean by that is anytime that I found myself holding on to something, and even Body Church has gone through so many evolutions. I thought if I would have gone forward and pushed through with Body Church a year ago, I would have had a brick and mortar, like basically Soul Cycle, but for movement. And that needed to die. And so I grieved the death of this vision and the planning and that brought the team in. And I had to say, this is not it. And so the more that I did that, the more that my creativity opened up and the more that I just got to play. And our creative expression is just, it's play. And then once we give it direction, it can go somewhere. And so I have thought that I was something amazing and then been so humbled and then thought that I was nothing and then been so humbled and received praise for something. And so what we think we are or what we try to prove to society that we are, I'm like, let's look at that. And I guess I've just been humbled enough to, and I have my days. Every day I meet a part of me that is telling myself a story that is not
the authentic you.
It's not the authentic me. Yes.
The authentic you is the part that everybody's just magnetically attracted to, and me included. Anybody that's been in your Body Church, you're a prolific doctor. Can you speak about what that means? And I mean, being a prolific being in this world, there's so much comparison mentality. But you stand out alone. You're in your own zone. I just love that about you.
Thank you. I got my PhD in kinesiology and rehabilitation science. I was really curious about bodies and how they work. And I studied knee injuries and why female athletes are more susceptible to getting knee injuries. And so along the way, in my course of study, I studied cadavers and physiology and biology and anatomy and injury prevention, and it was so fun. I was an athletic trainer. I've since let that certification, that board of medicine certification, expire, and now I'm super excited to be taking what I know from what I learned in my PhD and merging it with art and merging it with play and merging it with authentic expression. And so I've gone on a journey this past life, this past
life,
forever,
yeah,
of meeting myself, and in order to do that, you kind of have to play in the not self, right? And so, I played like I'm on a PhD and I'm gonna be a professor, and then I realized I am miserable. I don't have any energy. but I have all of the right things on paper. And so I just took a pause and dissolved like a caterpillar turning to imaginal cells. And I'm just now starting to emerge from the chrysalis.
You're the butterfly now, aren't you?
Yeah,
I think you're that monarch
we're like
butterfly.
we're the one we're the yeah we're getting there.
You're that monarch butterfly, and I love that analogy because I've used it so much in my life. I called it the COVID cocoon because I went through a rigor mortis, a near-death experience, literally, and a paralysis for 21 days. Had to learn to walk again. 2021. COVID is a long story, and a lot of people I know you've heard a lot of this story, but to touch on that analogy, it's like it's so important because everybody can go through that same dying of the old self, right? The rigor mortis, the transformation to something of a higher being. And that the monarch butterfly and the catalyst and the chrysalis and the catalyst of the chrysalis and how that it transforms is for everybody. And we all go through it. Spiritual teachers, doctors, moms, dentists, whoever, you go through this. But recognizing that and knowing that there's something better, there's this new version of yourself, this enlightened version of yourself that's coming. And just look at nature. Nature is one of our greatest teachers. So everybody has that story. But yours is yours is very unique. You're a different colored butterfly. Don't you? You have, because you bring something to the conversation, to the spiritual world, to the physical world that no one else touches on. Like, talk to me a little bit about body church, because that, to me, is truly a butterfly of a different color.
Yeah, it's interesting to even hear you say that because I I grew up feeling like I didn't really fit in. I was too one thing for another and too that thing for this, and I mean, even up until I was getting my PhD, I was in acting class and also working on my PhD, and both colleagues were like, "Oh, smart Liz," or like why don't you move to Hollywood? And so it was always like I always wanted to blend things, and I never felt home in any one community. I could always morph and shapeshift into getting along with those people, chameleon, but I never felt like anybody met me authentically. And so 2 years ago, I had a trauma release from my physical body. So I was working with an incredible practitioner, and she helped take me through an IFS experience, so somatic experience, internal family systems. And it's a system that I deeply believe in. And I felt it so incredibly in my body, to the point where while she was taking me through this cognitive therapeutic embodied technique, I started acting out these parts of me that I had never had access to. And long story short, we got through to this reason why I felt pretty disconnected and disembodied from my legs. And I had a medical trauma when I was a little baby that they put it at 6 months old. I used to hold my breath, turn blue, and pass out. And at 6 months old, the doctors were like, maybe it's meningitis. Let's give her a spinal tap. So they folded me forward and stuck a needle in my spine. And so from that moment on, for getting into that position was dangerous. And then I never got to complete that emotional expression until I was 34. So 34 years of not knowing why this energetic, like my heart rate would increase. I would get a little nervous. My ankles were tight. My hips were tight. I couldn't squat. And I was a fitness personality. So that was really humbling. I always had to elevate my heels and modify. And so I had tried all of the corrective exercise ever. And the one thing that allowed my body to open up was going back to what part of my past is living in the present moment in my body, letting it complete. So we have all these incomplete cycles. And I watched that in my own body. As soon as that energy opened up, it wrecked me. I am a very sensitive body. My design is that I can shape shift my body. So in ancient times, there were prayer dancers or priestesses or whatever it might be called. But today I'm just Liz. And so I have a very sensitive body. We can see something similar in autism or neurodivergent humans. But all of this, that was being blocked. And so I was like, I don't know, I'm just like pissed off some days, but I'm fine. I can walk down the street. And as soon as the energy opened up and I came back into my body, I was like, what have I not felt for 34 years? And it all came rushing in at the same time. So I got pummeled down into the underworld, the embodied chaos, the embodied terror. I was watching, observing, and feeling how I was fighting with myself, the embodied war, and this or that, or that's good or that's bad. And religion was stuck in there, and I had to pull religion out of like, that is good or that is bad. And I sat with that. I felt that long enough and hard enough and ugly enough that I finally came to a place where I can feel pretty at peace with a lot of energies. I mean, what we call evil or like dark energies is just a frequency. And when we can stop othering it, when we can stop saying this is right or this is wrong, that is when we are truly free. So that is my devotion. And that is the heart of Body Church. It's let me walk you up the stairs because yeah, we need to honor the part of you that's like that is wrong and I stand by that. Like we need to honor that part. And that's kind of where we see society right now. But we slowly put ourselves in the other person's shoes, other energy's shoes, other ideas' shoes, and start to speak both sides. And then there's always a middle way. There's always a middle way. And if you feel like vehemently opposed to one, you go back and you continue looking at yourself through the other person's eyes and looking at the world through the other person's eyes. And that is true freedom. And so that is the show that I'm developing, is the embodiment of that. It's hilarious. Music and dance and burlesque and deep spiritual teachings, which are also very shallow spiritual teachings. And then that is the heart of Body Church. So walking people up the stairs to be able to find true freedom, especially from any sort of addictions, our addiction to victimhood, our addiction to substances, our addiction to relationships. And so which is the devil. Addiction is the devil. I'm tethered to this thing. So breaking free from addictions, from trauma, from abuse, and turning it into being something of use.
Wow, that is miraculous. I'm so moved by that because trauma is on my heart in a big way. How to deal with trauma. And our last Now-ist experience live, the live event we did a framework for emergence trauma. It was a 5-step framework that we took the whole crew, the collective energy in that room, all the souls there, through emergence trauma. And it comes to mind when I think about the beautiful story you just told about how you emerged from trauma and how you found something was a catalyst to give it away to other people, like Body Church, in a way to serve people, because we have a similar heart. We want to help people emerge from trauma and outrun their past, or don't let their present live in a rearview mirror, where so many people just don't know. Like, you discovered it. But you discovered it. How did you initially discover it?
Well, it was a slow reveal. I was confused.
It wasn't like
every
a
day.
satori or a flash of enlightenment.
I mean, it came on like a lightning bolt. My body awareness came on like a lightning bolt.
Whoa, something is here.
Oh yeah, my spine started moving and I just started being moved. I started being moved and being breathed. And then I could sense energies. And I'm a scientist, so I was like, skeptical up until the moment the flash of lightning had happened to me. And I was like, oh. And because of my background in sports medicine, I was putting myself into positions and I was like, oh, I'm yogaing myself, or I'm being intuitively yoga'd.
Were you fixing something? Do you feel intuitive, like, wait, this is a remedy to my malady?
Yeah, and I was doing the movements that are now called chiropractic. I was being put in by my nervous system the movements that are now called yoga. And I'm like, oh, so in that flash of a moment, I just knew.
Wisdom of the body.
Yeah, these systems are simply just observing a body in its emergence and systematizing it to help walk people up the stairs. So because I'm in a female body, because I'm aware of emotions, because I have enough safety, I have the privilege to have enough safety in my life, I got to also observe how if we push people into, for example, a yoga position, I got to feel the real nervous system's truth of if they haven't witnessed their story or their trauma, we are silencing the inner child. And so my work is all about nourishing the younger version of ourselves, nourishing the child so that we can play in all of the archetypes. But if we don't do that, if we have absent children, inner little girl or inner little boy or inner androgynous, we have those three categories. It becomes mania, it becomes schizophrenia, it becomes mental health disorders, it becomes narcissism, and it's simply, and I just have such compassion for anyone who's been, who identifies with
I
those.
love that you brought that up because when I read the stat about a year ago, just after we finished the last event, I was going through that 3 month kind of what's next? What am I bringing to the world? The Now-ist is here to serve people, to create this legion of Now-ist, as I call it, helping people live not in a spiritual, not in a religious way, but in a spiritual way, a practice of living in the present moment. And so I spent about 3 months after the last event. I thought, what is next? What's coming through to me? I didn't want to do another live event. I knew there was something else on my heart. And I read this stat from the American Psychological Association that said over half of the world has an unresolved childhood trauma that they
Over
have,
half. It's
right,
literally everyone, by the
literally
way.
everyone, but they
Absolutely
try to
everyone.
quantify, and this is the weirdest thing.
Over
And
half.
it said 60, this is the interesting part. The stat said 61% of men and 51% of women have had an unresolved childhood trauma. And there's 8 billion people on the planet. So it gave me this idea. And we just had done this emergence trauma framework. And you just spoke of trauma and you're working through your childhood trauma. I work through I'm working, and you're never kind of done, right? I mean, you get to different levels of it because it'll still, like a whisper will still kind of show up. Occasionally you'll get triggered from something. And I thought I did the work on that, and then it shows up. But this this feature-length film that we're currently working on, almost done writing, is about helping that inner child when it gets triggered. How do you emerge from trauma and
Wow.
not take the whole family down with you or your friend group down with you?
Right.
Which narcissism, right? That's all
Right.
gaslighting, all these things that happen
Sure.
from that inner child screaming out, taking down the ship, and bringing everybody down with them because they're scared, they're alone. And that to me that's my new mission,
That's so
is to help
important.
people learn how to emerge from trauma and then figure out how to complete the process without taking everybody down with you. And then what happens, the fifth step of the framework is find somebody and help them with their emergence. It's just about, because you touch on and you went through this cathartic journey so beautifully and created something that I know is resonating with thousands of people right now, right? Your
It
body
wasn't
church.
always beautiful. It was quite disastrous, actually.
But that's why I talked about earlier, introducing you, your authenticity just blows me away. I rarely met, you're in the top 5 of my whole life of authentic people. In our first meeting, you didn't care what I thought of you. You were so yourself, authentically yourself. Like I was like a bucket of cold water was thrown over me. Like, oh my God, like what the hell? Like this person is so in touch with who she really is. And it just like, it made me feel like Prince. Like I go back to Prince because Prince was the most authentic artist. I know you're an artist as well, actress, right? You're beautiful. You could easily be on the big screen. Have you done television or movies? All that stuff, right? You use the gifts that God is giving you, but now you find ways to transform them into a bigger service to the
Exactly.
world. And I know that's your heart.
And elevate them. So this will be interesting since you're in the middle of writing a film or producing a
Yep.
film.
Screenplay's about a month or 2 away
Oh,
from completion.
oh, amazing. And like
Thank you.
that, keep going with that. That feels really potent and really powerful. Um, the the thing about acting is the journey of an actor. Sometimes my journey as an actor has been, I was drawn to acting. I wanted to be on stage. Subconsciously, I didn't know this at the time, but I wanted a place to play out these characters that were similar to me and different than me so that I could feel and stretch into embodiment of my emotions. I had no idea that was what was happening. I just wanted to be a good actress and be hired and have work. So once I didn't need to act, I started being drawn back to character work. And their Greek theater, they would put up acts of the day, of different archetypal expressions so that we could see it. And through mirror neurons, when we watch another actor carry out a scene, internally we also carry it out. But what we do is we go to the cinema and we sit there and we let someone else embody all of these big scary emotions, and we never move. We just get the emotional perturbation. So I'm elevating this concept by putting on, so that's my artistry, is playing both sides of the stage, male, female, like, Roe, Wade, like I'm literally playing every side of the stage, um, and putting it in my body, and actually like feeling like, oh, what is the movement that needs to happen, so their mirror neurons get the attunement, and then I give them space to move. And so there's a breath that, let's breathe, let's move. Here's body church, where you can actually go and have, it's a contained wild like I've never experienced before. We have, it's almost like it's a ceremony, really, of sorts, but also a movement practice. And it's deeply sacred and also super embodied, grounded, and practical. And it allows you to learn how to use your breath to contain yourself as you slowly start to go on that excavation that I got kind of like pushed in the mud to do. God was just like,
Take that.
Yeah. And so now I'm like, listen, it doesn't have to be that complicated for y'all. Like, I did that. So I found the way out. Follow me. And so obviously, brilliantly by design, that was my journey. And it doesn't have to be so tough. So that the sacred acting is simply embodying our inner archetypes, embodying all of the scared little girls and boys, embodying all of the dragons and the evil, and we are obsessed with Hollywood here in America so much because those are our gods. You look at any polytheistic religion and it's a different emotional embodiment in a god. Literally, God or God worship, goddess worship is that. So that the point is, so we can see it, so our mirror neurons can put ourselves in these positions, because there is
kind of Greek mythology, similar,
yes,
right?
there's an
Zeus,
intelligence.
Aphrodite, right? God
Exactly.
of, yeah.
And every culture has a different name for it, except America has Hollywood. America has puritanical roots. There are no embodied emotional expressions in Christianity that have been preserved and passed down, at least not out of secrecy. And so I was raised Catholic, and
Me too. I currently am Catholic, but
oh,
yeah.
cool. And which I love.
I do too, absolutely.
It's such a rich culture, and Jesus and Mother Mary. Like I had to wash myself of being like of that
Not
for a
feeling
while.
blasphemous, right?
Yeah, and so now I understand it's an archetypal expression. It's an energy. It's an energy of enlightenment. It's an energy of Divine Mother. It's an energy of, and you see every polytheistic or even monotheistic religion has these deities, devas, parables. So we can do that for ourselves as well, because the point of religion is to give people within a culture something that feels relatable enough that they can find whole within themselves. And when we look at, like for me, I come to LA and everyone's like doing Shakti goddess, like Hindu stuff. And I'm like, I can go there, but it doesn't feel like relatable because of my ancestry and my lineage and just who I be. And like, I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm like, good. No, not for me. That's all. Like,
Yeah.
good for you, but not for me. No judgment. So I was like, where is the thing that's an embodied practice, but also deeply reverent of my roots and ancestry? And so I'm just like, oh, at the nervous system level, it's simply just embodied expression. And so we can take that as deeply spiritual or deeply practical as we need to. And so that is when you unpack body church, that's the like, that's the place that we can go.
And so you're transforming lives because as authentic as you are. You're giving them license to be authentic too.
Permission.
You are, it's like that Marianne Williamson quote, that famous quote I love so much. I know you've heard it, right? Who am I to be so dim? I'm going to paraphrase her. But when you shine on other people, you give them license to shine as well, right? We play so small and we think, oh no, don't look at me.
Well, it's terrifying. I had to meet that.
Yeah.
I came here actually. My journey where I met you, where we were looking at a property, I needed to hide. I needed to get out of my community. I needed to be.
You authentically and intuitively just knew there's something calling you.
Yeah.
And you just answered the call.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody here.
Yeah,
This is like,
I love that about
I gotta
you.
be
You're
here.
just so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to share this with everybody. And I didn't think I was going to bring it up, but as we are authentic with each other.
Yeah, please.
When you and I met, it was just so transformative because you, in your generous heart, just gave me a reading. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
We met because he was showing me a house. I was just like trying to find a house in Santa Barbara. And we just got chatting, and I was like, oh, this guy's amazing. What a big heart. And I was like, we just got chatting, and I was like, well, you want to see what it is that I do? Because it's kind of hard to explain. And so.
But that was the thing that was so rare. And I've worked with so many people over the years as a spiritual teacher, in my profession, whatever, helping and serving people. But it's usually like there's this, oh, text me, email me, I'll DM you on Instagram or whatever.
10-foot cement wall between us.
But you got to do this thing before you get comfortable with each other and then read each other. And it was just so fresh and so like, but it was exactly what I needed. And this is what you don't know about that. I teach and believe so much in spiritual science. The spiritual breadcrumbs that I learned from Dr. Wayne Dyer. He calls them spiritual breadcrumbs, and I love that. And synchronicities. And it was so synchronistic that we meet. It's just you and me in this big house, right? And usually there's like the archetypals, like, whoa, a single woman, a guy is like, aren't you afraid? Like, look at the news. Look at all these terrible things that happened.
Maybe.
But you had no fear.
Yeah.
And I was just like so embracing the moment of what you offer. It's like, I'm a body whisperer, and I can give you a reading. Or is that what you called it, a reading, or was it just a healing?
I do. So I don't call myself a healer, or I guess it could be a reading if we look at it from that construct, but it's really just a prayer-formance or a performance so that you
Prayer-formance.
So you can
that's
see
the
yourself.
Best word.
Yeah.
Because that's a very good way to interpret how you served me that day. And it was just magical. And so I'll try to describe it a little bit.
Please help me describe it.
It's indescribable. But so we talked earlier about trauma with children and how over half of the world, like you said, it's way higher than that. It's not 50 to 60%. It's got to be almost everybody has an unresolved childhood trauma that they just disassociate in psychology, right? You disassociate, you bury it, you don't bring it up. It's just too taboo and it's too painful. And I've dealt with that most of my life because of some trauma in my childhood. And I've done deep work being a spiritual teacher. I didn't go to college, but I have a psychological degree, I feel, in spirituality and deep work in myself, which has been serving other people. Because the book, The Now-ist, that came through me is my spiritual journey. It's a spiritual memoir of how I found the present moment to be the most powerful moment you have in your life, how to use that, how to harness that and live in it naturally. So you arrive this day, and for whatever reason, you give me the prayer formance. And Liz, just like, it's hard to articulate, but you embodied the little boy in me that was dealing with some pretty severe mommy issues that I thought I'd done a decade of deep work on. And here I am teaching people, and not to discount anything I've taught, but I didn't know there was this residue in me. And so you give me this performance. And I was like, you're giving me this experience, and you're reading the energy that is this little boy in me. And I like my full body chills. I'm just sitting on this couch, and Liz is doing the magic that she does to embody this little Billy Mandarino. And going through, I'm getting full body chills again because it's so phenomenal. But the cathartic experience I had that day, I didn't even know, I'm not good with time, how long it took. But you actually took the soul of this little boy and you transmuted the fear, the worry, the I'm not enoughness out. And you just like cast it, and it kind of like just left you and went away. And after that day, I like something's different in me. And I'm glad I get to publicly kind of thank you for that. And I can't wait for other people to get that gift from you, because I know you can teach people how to do it. But that day, you took the last like kernel or residue of that unresolved trauma in that little boy, and you kind of just took it away, and it's gone.
At a house showing.
Exactly. I was showing her a rental property. It's like, are you kidding me? That's the beauty of it. That's the authenticity. And I pray that you give people, I know you do in Body Church and all the wonderful work you do to help people, not just women, right?
Oh, everyone.
You're not just helping women.
Sure.
I know you have an incredible following,
Yeah.
female following.
Yeah.
But you give people this license, and then I was gifted. And there's no charge. It's just like, you're a doctor, you're a professional, you're an incredible spirit. But I've never got to really thank you properly. I'm glad I get to thank you publicly because I never called you after. We texted a little bit because you're looking for property, but I never got to articulate how powerful that was. And I just felt like I had it done. Like for you, like you went through this transformation. Did you get it? Is it out of you? Is there residues that come up for you ever again? Or I mean, are we ever done? When we're in a meat suit, I mean, I feel like we're here for this experience in the Earth School.
Yeah.
Like until we get the lessons, then we move on.
Yeah, sure. It's fun here.
Fun.
We need the density.
Angels, I've been reading, angels are jealous of us.
For sure.
Angels want the physical, visceral experience.
That's right.
They want to come to the Earth School.
It's the duality. It's the polarity. Thank you for sharing that and how that affected you. I think I can imagine what I do is embody the part of you that you're having trouble witnessing. So I pull it out and I say, okay, this is what it looks like in my body. And oftentimes,
I saw it.
Yeah, the body positions, because it's a nervous system. You close your eyes, you can still see. So let's just make that known. You close your eyes, you can still see. So you're not seeing with your eyes, you're seeing with your nervous system. You're seeing with your energy awareness, your sense ability. And so I'm just able to say, where are you blind? And here, let's illuminate it by allowing you to see. And so all of our trauma, all of our fear, anything we say that I am not that or I'm afraid of that shuts us down, makes us blind. And so, when the blind can see, and so it's not about your eyes. It's about your awareness to things that are the unseen, which we are now able to measure. I mean, roughly, because the intricacies of the universe, like, if we knew, then it would be wrong, then we can't actually know. And so it's the kindness that I'm after. It's a world where we can show up at the grocery store and be like, how you doing? Give me a hug, versus like, everyone's just got this big cement. I feel like a big cement like fort.
You feel it.
Right over their heart. And so it sounds so, predictable to be like, we just got to open our hearts. But we can't, and we can blast our hearts open, but these little parts of us that are like, absolutely not.
That's the child. That's the
protection. They need to have a voice too. And I went through, in order to find my like calm, nervous system regulated self, I had to meet every part of me. And there are thousands of women in me. There are, thousands of DNA in me. I am holding all of my future 7 generations of beings. Like, there's a lot inside of me. And inside of our DNA, it goes back to the beginning, right? And so all of that is information. DNA is light. All of it is information. And
information. Inform, right?
Inform. Oh, I like that one. I love playing with words. So
me too. That's my jam.
Yeah. And so I take that and I create art out of it. Instead of being, I chose a scientific, my brain, my fear chose, I want to observe things and make meaning of them. And my soul, my spirit, now alive, embodied as my own inner artist, is like, I want to take things that we don't know and make art out of them, and illuminate the possibility of maybe things aren't what you seem, or what more questions do you have? So it's more about staying curious than finding out the answers. And I find myself in that delusion all
But
the
that's the
time.
play I love. I mean, living in childlike bewilderment to me is the key. And what you
You
do
have to
is
play.
live in, and there's a chapter in my book called Living in Childlike Bewilderment.
Mm.
And there's so many great teachers and quotes and historical documentation we talk about. In the Bible, Jesus says, like,
Mm.
you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven until you're like little children.
That's right.
So it's a sign. It's a clue
That's right. It's a
from
clue.
the master
It's like,
teacher.
just so you know, and we're like, oh, I
Yeah.
guess I'll just be no, it's your inner child.
And you take that inner child. You took my inner child and like
Mm.
whipped him around a little bit and says, "Hey,
Yeah.
man," and you just took him through,
Mm-hmm.
and you straighten that little kid up. You set the kid free, and you did that for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But you embody play in such a way that's pretty fresh. I mean, it's body movement. It's a way to express the child, right?
Mm.
Because look at little kids. They just want to run free. They don't care about what people think about them. I mean, they're Batman. They're Wonder Woman.
That's right.
They don't care. Their cape is flowing. They're in the
Yeah.
playground. They don't
That's
care.
me all day.
That's it. So you give people, your students, your whatever you call them, the people that enter your sphere, your vortex, you bring them into that playground. And that's what's so rare about you. And that's what's so fresh about you and authentic about you. Because there's no shrinking away from it. You just go all in and you give. It's such a gift. Find Liz online. Find her. I cannot promote her, talk about her enough, because what you bring to this world is so overdue. It's so fresh. It's so now. Because if people can just get in touch with the play, because that little child wants to play inside you, right? The little child wants to be let free and say, "Hey, I don't care what people think about me. I want to be my authentic self." But you're your authentic self. But you use the vehicle of childlike bewilderment and play to unlock people's inner child, which is, I mean, beyond psychology. Because psychology sits you in a room and we talk and we do deep sessions and we're on a couch and no disrespect to psychologists, no disrespect. I love, that's very important. But when you can combine the body work with the psychology, there's freedom.
That's right.
And that's what you do. And that's what's so powerful.
It's the letting go. It's the this we have the carrot of like, I gotta understand. And once you get to it, it's like, oh, I can't understand. And that is a really difficult place to be, because you are stepping off the ledge and praying that you can create the ground beneath you in every step. And so that's presence. And so that is where my devotion is. My devotion is in the present moment, and magic happens. And when all of you don't have like 7-year-old you way back, when all of you is present, that is magic. And so that is what I am moving towards. Yeah, you asked earlier, like, are you good? Are you healed? It's like, no, I meet a new part of me every day, because as I step and the ground falls beneath me, maybe I step at the light of the moon, or maybe I step on a Tuesday, or maybe I step and I finally fell in love. And so like, holy moly, what burns away in the face of the light of love? It's like, I don't know if that's going to land. And so we are constantly growing. So we're constantly illuminating new parts of us, new lands, new people we meet, new keys that get unlocked when 2-3 people are gathered. It's a constant evolution, and that's the point. And so if we can just bring ourselves, our army of selves, forward into the present now, and then meet other people in the present now, we get to create the ground beneath us rather than history repeating itself.
Then you create it in eternity, because the present moment has no time. It's infinity, it's eternity. And so when you meet little children, they don't know time. Animals don't. If you ask my dog what time it is, they say, "What's now? I'm ready for dinner." I'm like, ready to go for the walk. It's like, and animals are such great teachers too, because I see my dog get offended by another dog and just freak out and just go at it, and just a second later, it's like it never even happened. I mean, cats and dogs are.
They don't hold a grudge.
They don't. They have no ego.
But their nervous system does. So I can do this work with dogs too.
Really?
Yeah. So there was a dog who was going to be put down because they kept snapping and attacking everybody. So the owner had to give it up. So I got called, and I worked with this dog. I mean, I needed to have more equipment on working with this dog, but I was just, brave. Idiot. and so I watched as I tuned into its nervous system and read its body, and then put myself into the position of, I'm bowing down, but I'm also reaching towards you. So my personal body was surrendered, but I was reaching towards it, and it would snap at me, and then I would continue to remain bowed. I would continue to remain submissive to this dog. So and it was like, that's never happened, because its owner was like, no, don't. So I'm helping the part of this dog that believes that an owner can be submissive and let it use its voice. I mean,
Wow.
it was
The voice, the body, the body voice,
the
right?
body
Yeah.
voice, yeah, the expression. He was like, anyways, thanks, Liz.
And it
Like,
didn't bite you? It didn't bite you? It didn't like,
and it, no, I don't even remember. No, I mean, I don't even remember. I just remember what grabbed me was like watching what embodied energy that dog pulled out of me.
mm,
And so it wanted to be praised for everything. It wanted to be like, it's okay, like, yay, we love that we love that part of you, and let me reintegrate you that that's not what we need from you. That's not appropriate here right now. I mean, and it's so different with the dog because they don't,
yeah.
we're not, all right, Johnny,
Take this prescription.
yeah, it's different, but I just got to see that bodies are bodies, nervous systems are very intelligent, and the fact that I could interact with this dog, I was just like, what is real? Like, what is
And
going
it
on?
obviously affected the dog.
Oh, for sure.
Like you transmuted just this shape and this energy
It was
to the dog.
the dog was like, you've seen the dogs. They're just like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna eat you. And you're just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But that little, and so this is relatable to us. We all have inside of us the little like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm gonna eat you. I'm gonna kill you. But we suppress it, But the second someone, usually it happens in relationship, comes forward, you see that, but then you repress it. You're like, I can't do that. Like I would, and it comes out anyways as disease, as inflammation,
Yes.
as neuroses, as mental health disorders. And so but we don't have a place to play like that because adults don't play. When the child isn't resourced and the adult's like, you know what, I just feel I've got to play, it turns into sex. It turns into the bedroom. It turns into the dungeon. It turns into like that is how adults play, is sex. And
Release, trying to get
release,
out of that.
role play is all this it's holy in and of itself, and it's a little bit to the left. And so role play, when you have resourced your kid, is where I live so I can go light, dark, sexy, completely like childlike, anywhere. And so that is the permission that I am honored to bring to the world, is I'm all of it. That is my
And then
my
at the end of the
mission.
day, you bless your problem because all the childhood trauma, the catharsis, the deep work you had to do, that turned into this incredible, fresh, new, now service to the world. It's all perfect.
Yeah,
Like
of
I learned,
course.
like
Like,
I learned,
thank you. When you can thank your
yes,
trauma, then you're
make it your
free.
spiritual practice, right? It
That's
became your
right.
spiritual practice. And when I was paralyzed and near death during COVID, I made it my spiritual practice. And that was one of the greatest things that ever happened to my life.
And you have to also hate it and really hear the voice that's like, oh, you have to allow that to have a voice too. And but before you can think it, otherwise you're continuing to,
You got to be real
fool
with it, right?
yourself.
Real is, yeah, you hate it. You don't want to be like
You have to
paralyzed. You don't want
give
to
that.
almost die. You don't want to go through the trauma, but if you meet it where it is, right, then there's a chance for you to then transmute it,
Right.
right? And that's
Meet it,
what you,
hold it, look at it. It's ugly. And just be like, oh, it's ugly.
like the dog, you're meeting it in its shape. You're meeting it where it lives, where it is. But you have to have the introduction first, don't you? You have to meet it
Be
there.
like, I know, I get it.
There's a
I
process
also
still.
talk.
It's not just like you're going to go work with somebody. But what's so great about when you and I met at that showing was like we were already tuned because the work we do, living on different kind of spiritual planes, maybe not to put us different from everyone else, but when you vibrate at a certain frequency, Dr. Wayne says it's so funny. He says, when you stop thinking in dumb ways, God sent you smarter people. And you were smarter people that day, right? Because we were vibing, and whatever it was, the universe synchronistically brought you. And I was just so, when you and I talked first 5 minutes, like, okay, this is not an accident. This is a synchronicity. Pay attention. Like pay very good attention to what's going on. And then when it turned into this phenomenal transmutation of my inner child.
Mm-hmm.
But the awareness, I find, is what most people lack. Because the minute you know you're in stress, that's step one out of stress. And like when you meet and work with your clients, right, it's their awareness to the child. How do you deal with awareness with your work, with your clients?
Just through the sensation.
Mm-hmm.
And often, if people are really having trouble getting into their body, meaning sensing sensations in their body, I just take them in a meditation. So I take them into their brain. I'm not like, get in your body at all
Yeah.
costs, because the body's like, no, I'm not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll guide them through into a dream state, almost like a hypnosis, and we'll go together into the dream, like a guided meditation, and we'll figure out what's in the way of that little boy. So I've taken people into these most fantastical dream worlds where we're having a conversation, but they're in a deep theta state. And they're creating the world that they need in order to feel safe for their little girl. And usually I've been in like very Alice in Wonderland places that they describe to me, where they couldn't open the door to them, to their heart, to their little kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in places where it was like this book that you pulled and the bookcase opened. And these are like the San Francisco tech people,
Yeah.
you know,
Very
like
left brain, very
yeah,
yeah.
very. And so now they're weaving this dream world. And so that is the first step to being able to access the middle way, which is I can be on planet Earth and also access like the energy infinite.
Mm-hmm.
I can be masculine and feminine and sit in the middle. I can be left brain and right brain and have all of the wild chaos creativity, give it some direction, and that's the spiral. So that is, our fascia is arranged in spiral lines. So our fascia is literally the tool we can use, or the material that is affected by our embodied middle, our embodied whole, rather. So when we can move in our fascial spiral lines, we are able to access the embodied whole, which is why, and we're so desperate to be able to embody the whole, and our sacral desires, our sexual desires, are so wise, and so in we're so enraptured by people who can move their bodies in spirals, which is why we see what we do in strip clubs or dances, or the beauty of like a woman in her flow is because we all desire, I mean, or we have a story about it that it's bad, which is,
That's usually more common, isn't it?
Sure,
Yeah.
but she has accessed her embodied chaos, her embodied feminine, because and when the masculine gets involved, or giving and receiving, however you want to house that, left brain, right brain, it creates an upward spiral. So you take a circle, you merge it with a line, you give it direction, and now it is a circle in infinite. It's a spiral, and that is how our body moves. So by moving in spiral lines, meeting the parts of you that are resisting and start to shake or start to we can clear that, and we start to actually embody the whole, the now.
Which makes sense, because your spine, obviously, right? There's that golden sacrum, the fluid. I'm blanking on
Cerebrospinal.
spinal fluid that ends up in your pineal gland. When you get mystical experience, Dr. Joe Dispenza is brilliant at teaching that. There must be some connection to the pineal gland, your seventh chakra, your eighth chakra, and upregulating, right, these lower energy fields, and creating this continuity and this coherence with your energy centers and right with your chakras through the work you're doing. It has to be this benefit.
Yeah,
I'm sure, for everybody.
I'm sure. We don't house it like that. Like, I'll mention it just because I've heard it, but I never studied that. I never studied Tantra. I never studied energy bodies. I've like thumbed through some books to understand it enough, but I bring it back to the nervous system and that level of human being.
It's more physical and tactile, right, with you. It's not, because we're talking energy fields and we're talking auras and
So I'm excited, and everything is attached to everything. So you can work with it on the nervous system plane. And so for the people that I work with, we have so many resources for embodying Shakti in our we already have that system. But for the people, like, who were me, where I came from, where I was like, you won't catch me dead doing that because of, it feels like I'm appropriating something and
Because it wasn't your dharma. You know your
it
purpose. You
wasn't,
know your
yeah,
purpose.
I was like, I feel like this is the only place where I can move like my body wants to move, but the culture feels a little bit off for me. And not to judge it, there is no judgment. Awesome for you, not for me. And I imbued myself like in that. I put myself in that for 2 years, more than 2 years, and was like, yeah, these are my friends. Oh my God, everyone's. And then I was like, hold on, I am abandoning myself because I don't want to put feathers in my hair and change my name. Like, I'm Elizabeth Letchford. I wear blazers, and I also happen to know how to embody
And
chaos.
you're so authentic. It's palpable. It's rich. It's fresh. It is so you. And that's the best thing about you to me, from me,
Mm,
is your authenticity.
yeah.
I think that's missing in the whole world. People afraid to be their authentic selves, but their inner child knows their authentic self. They're best
Yes.
friends, but they forgot about it.
Yes.
They lock them away.
And that's why, like, these different cultures you see of spirituality, different spiritual communities, whether it's Catholicism or
Mm-hmm.
like the wild and free or the pagans, like, they felt a resonance for whatever reason, and it was authentic to them. So if it's authentic to you, by all means, go. I had just never found anything that was authentic to me. I was studying, I was like, am I going to be a part of like Celtic shamanism? I'm like, just because, I'm
Yeah.
of that heritage. I was like, I don't get it. It just doesn't feel resonant. And so I kept asking questions like, well, maybe I'll go. And I went on a journey. Maybe I'll go to India. Maybe I'll go to, and I went to India, Ecuador. I went to all these places to just not even study, just like
Mm-hmm.
be there and be like, do I like this? And it was,
Okay, Liz, are you more patient or persistent?
huh. For me, those two things meet in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to discern between the two. I think so. The thing that's alive for me right now is I just fell in love for the first time.
God bless you. I'm so excited for you.
And it
Of course, you
is,
attracted it because
oh my
you are love. You embody love. Of course, you're going to tune to love, and love's going to find
it
you.
was so miraculous. And so
Here?
in London,
Oh, fantastic.
yep. And so in the face of that, um, I am watching how when you have love, when you are love, you're just patient. And then,
Mm.
and you like, love is patient, love is kind. I was like, oh,
Corinthians, we all know we know Corinthians 13.
oh my God.
God had it
You
right the
were
whole
right,
time.
brother.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, go
Jesus,
Jesus.
right on the point.
Yeah.
He's our homie.
Yeah. And I was just like rolling my eyes at that before because I couldn't understand, I couldn't understand it. And
Mm.
so, yeah, I just observe myself being like, with everyone else, I would be like, I'm out of here, like rolling my eyes and not, judging. And with him, I was just like, yeah, I see your little boy, I see your little girl, and I've infinite. It's like this well of love for whoever shows up here, and let's go. And so that was recent, and that was,
I'm so inspired by you.
yeah, in the face of love, everything burns away. So I watched as my body, everything that was like hard and like, it was just like, and so it all comes back to love.
It does, doesn't it?
I went so far into science that it's like I went out the other side. I'm like, oh, it's just love.
But you had to go
Everyone.
on the journey. It was
I
all perfect.
had to go on,
It was all
and
perfect.
everyone has to go on the journey.
You got to go on the journey.
You can't skip steps.
That's why patience or persistence.
that's
And I
the
love how you
game.
married the two to one point, which is you meeting your soulmate, I assume.
Yeah.
And it took the patience and
To
the persistence.
just persist.
And then to recognize and have the awareness to know, wait, because I know we put these stories in our head, like this has to happen and this timing has to happen when I fall, and I have to give up this if I do that. But to be so brave and authentic, I'm not surprised you found love. Because you weren't even looking for it, were you? When I fell in love with my wife, I don't drink.
Yeah.
I don't party.
Right, same.
I was in a bar in Lake Havasu, Arizona, 7 shots of tequila in, smoking cigarettes. It's not me. And I was so effing drunk that I had this liquid courage. And my now wife we're celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary this October.
Congrats.
I love you, honey.
Wow.
And it was so crazy because she's marrying, or she's dating Brian Bosworth, who is he's not Brian Bosworth, there's this huge mountain of a man with a blonde flat top and this
yeah.
yoked dude, right? And I thought, but I had this liquid courage, which is not me. That's when you know that the universe, you think, want to make God laugh, like tell him your plans,
Sure,
right? Like
that's
you're gonna,
for sure.
like but it's so crazy that I meet her on a crowded dance floor in Lake Havasu, Arizona on spring break, 1992, March 28th.
Wow.
Is that nuts?
Whoa.
But there it is. Like, and I wanted to be a rock star, sign a record deal. I was all about that. So I bet similar to you, this was not on your radar. Right?
I mean, I was on a dating app, so like it was on my radar. But I was in London, and I was like, "What do I do now? Let me meet someone cool." Like, and we can like that's always been a catalyst in a new city for me. Is I'll go on the local dating app, be like, "Who seems safe and cool?" And so immediately, as soon as I opened it, he had texted me. You know, he had messaged me, matched with me, and he was like, "Well." Immediately, within 5 seconds, we had plans to meet. It was so strange. Yeah. And as soon as I saw him, I was just like, oh, hi. I just, bing.
I know you.
Yeah.
I know you.
We were just like, bing, like shining lights in witness of each other. It was so.
I love love. I
yeah,
love love.
it was crazy. It was crazy. I've never
very
been
fresh.
in love
It's fresh.
before this.
It's
yeah.
fresh.
Yeah. Brand new.
Wow.
So. Yeah, we'll see what it does to the body. So that's going to be an interesting chapter now in Body Church because I can only teach what I embody. And so I'm as I go through these steps, I get to understand them, understand them, and then bring them to the people and have them help curve it and shape it. And how does this sound to you? And and then the more people embody it, the more that I learn. So the community of Body Church helps to shape the steps that we go through. And it's unique to the individual. So it's not my way. It's in the face of this archetype, what do you do? It's not do your body like this and da 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 da. It's in the face of this archetype. How do you react? How can we get to a place where you can love that and marry that?
Marry that. You might be saying those words at some point. Who knows? I don't know if you believe it. I'm just so excited that it's found you right on time. Right when you least expect it, right? And on a dating app. Like,
I know,
it's like me,
silly.
who doesn't drink, straight lace, 7 shots tequila, smoking cigarettes, hugging the porcelain throne all night, later that night. God. I think, yeah, I love how life works. When I look back on it, it's just nuts. So I know the same adventure. Well, you already lived this adventure. You're living this adventure. That's what I love about you, Liz. You're so authentic. And I keep going back to that because I'm trying to hammer that to you, that authenticity. If you can find your authenticity, and you can find Liz, because Liz, I believe, will help you find that authenticity. That's the true gift that you're giving the world. That's like, I have this dharma, this purpose to bring people into present moment awareness as a way of life. You have this dharma, this purpose to bring people into authentic selves through their bodies, through the deep work that they do on their inner child. But it's beyond that. I know it's much more beyond that. I'm simplifying it a little bit.
That's great. That's
But I'm
perfect.
just so excited that you're in this world. I'm so excited I got to meet you, the divine God, thank you, brought you in my life for this brief experience, and now I get to interview you and share you out with the world like you deserve to be. I know you've been all over the world. I know you've been on your Instagram blows up, and I know I have so many raving fans that know you. Thank you, Gabby, by the way, for getting this together and bringing you back into my life. But I'm just so inspired by everything you're doing, and I cannot thank you enough for doing the work you're doing. Now you're going to Europe.
Yep.
In London, and it makes sense that this mission, this what do you call it, a dharma? What is it to you? I know what it is to me for this mission.
Movement.
A movement. There it is. It's perfect because you're about movement.
Totally.
And it
is a double entendre.
Double entendre. She's a doctor. I'm just so impressed by everything. Beyond impressed. I'm just aligned with you and with everything you do, and I just want to support you. So where should all those folks out there in TV, internet, Instagram land, TikTok land find Liz Letchford?
Let's go. So we are Body Church for Body Church or bodychurch.com. And then you can find me at Liz Letchford on most platforms.
I've studied and looked, and after we met and you helped me have this transformation, I just was watching a lot of your content, just such a variety, so many deep subjects you dive into but in such a fresh way.
Totally.
It's so authentically you, and that's
It's what I needed. And when people can feel like, what do I need? And have the courage and the community support to not other them, to not judge them, which we're not necessarily there yet, then we can heal ourselves. We can become ourselves. We can remember, like from our dismembered body, we can remember ourselves. And for whatever reason, I was born real brave. And so even when the community was judging, even when I didn't know anybody, even when I was like, I might
you've
just
always
be
been this way. As a little
completely,
girl, you were just brave and outgoing and unafraid.
no, yes. And then it got shut down. So I had to unbury
How old were
myself
you
from
when it got
my
shut down? Do you remember?
6.
I was 7 when I had it. So interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a time in your
It's a
memory
cycle,
or
7-year
your
cycles.
physiology or imprinting in your nervous system. If it happens more prolific or deeply at that age, I don't know. I don't know the science on that, but I just know there's a similarity, and I've helped coach, work with a lot of people that have similar traumas around those ages. So
You're becoming yourself, and then you have mommy and daddy saying this is what you should be, or have no containment. And so I can imagine once I get married, I have kids, we'll have this concept of authenticity in your relationships and helping people get out of the chaos of like, but they want this and I want this and actually come to a harmony, or realize this person isn't meant to be your lover, they're meant to be your creative partner, so you can make this epic thing that you're missing out on because you want to put them in your mouth, you know. It's like to be able to meet the parts of us that are afraid or holding on in some way, and just with an open palm meet every single person and tune your system. It doesn't come from here. It is in your body. And so I think you can feel like you can bring anything. You can like, blah, you know, or, and I would just be like, yeah, I know that too.
yeah,
And I'm not afraid of
nothing
that.
shocks you.
Yeah.
Nothing like
very few things shock me. And if they do, then I'm like, thank you. And then I move through it and meet all the stories that live there so that I can clear it, almost like water running clear, so that I can be present. And that's every single day. Every single day I do that. There is no arriving.
Yeah, there's never a destination where
there's
you've
no
reached
landing,
it.
right?
I love Paulo Coelho. He wrote one of my favorite books, The Alchemist. And he says, life is the train, not the destination. So we just live on that train. I'm so honored to be on that train with you in this moment, in this now moment of inspiration, of just helping the world who is trapped in this past of their childish trauma, childlike trauma that they've had, but knowing that it wants to be free. And it wants to live outside, no longer, and it wants to be set free. It's almost like it's been imprisoned. And you just released you've helped me. I know you've done the deep work on yourself so you can serve other people, but now you're here. So people need to find Liz. Please find Liz.
Thank you, Billy.
Find her teachings, like, share, subscribe to her channels. Do you have a YouTube channel as well?
I do. It's We Are Body Church.
Which social media platform would you direct people to first?
Liz Letchford.
LizLetchford.com?
Everything is going to be there.
Okay, just like BillyMandrino.com, LizLetchford.com. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. You're so phenomenal. Thank you so much. You're just a light in the world, and I wish you nothing but grand, abundant joy and peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.